Star Wars The Bad Batch. It's out, and I actually have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly here. I just want to do a quick little breakdown. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this. I just want to give my thoughts on the premiere of The Bad Batch. It's a really long premiere. It's like over an hour long, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, maybe I'm just saying this because I'm coming off the high of actually watching the episode for the first time, but the premiere episode of The Bad Batch, the new Star Wars animated series, is fantastic. There's going to be spoilers in this video for the episode, obviously, but Dave Filoni, so much faith in Dave Filoni. I honestly, just amazing work. Such amazing work. So the episode, I mean, it starts out with, it goes back from the end of the Clone Wars a little bit, and it jumps back to Order 66. And we see another perspective from Order 66 with Caleb Dume and his master. And the Bad Batch actually comes in as well. But Caleb Dume, if you guys don't know, Caleb Dume is he is Kanan Jarrus from Star Wars Rebels. That was his original name, and he went by Kanan later during the Empire when he was in hiding. So we see Caleb Dume, we see a young Caleb Dume when Order 66 is happening, and we pretty much see the whole scene that he described in Star Wars Rebels way back when the episode premiered, when he described what his master yelled for him is to run. So Order 66 takes place. Here's his master here, Depa Balava. I got her name right. I probably butchered the name there, but I believe that's what her name was, something like that. But the clones are there, and she senses Order 66 is happening, and essentially the Bad Batch was there also as like a special force to kind of help out, because that was the only, I guess, reinforcements or whatever they got for their fight, and they helped out in the Bad Batch. Most of the Bad Batch did not actually execute Order 66. The only one that was affected was Crosshair, and he was only slightly affected. Crosshair wasn't necessarily completely affected. He was kind of like an in-between. He kind of got the order for Order 66, but he didn't fully, transition over into like a stormtrooper, essentially. But so the whole beginning, you get the whole story of Caleb Dume that we kind of learned in Star Wars Rebels, and I don't think we'll ever see Caleb Dume again in The Bad Batch. I think we're done with his story, but it was kind of nice to really see him. And it was really weird because they actually got his voice actor back. I think Freddie Prinze Jr. They actually got his voice actor back to voice him, and it sounded really weird actually, because he's much younger now. So it sounded like an adult man voicing, like, I don't even know, a younger kid almost. So it was a little weird, but I guess it makes sense that they got the original voice. Maybe they could have brought the pitch up a little higher, but they did get the original voice from Star Wars Rebels back. Really cool there. I really like Kanan Jarrus, or Caleb Dume, probably one of my favorite Jedi in all of Star Wars. Like, if you watch his story in Star Wars Rebels, it's amazing. Like, honestly, one of the coolest Jedi that I have seen personally. So the Bad Batch, they leave, Order 66 is happening. It's almost like nothing has changed too much for them, considering how much actually did just change. But, they're still, they head back, their mission's done, and they kind of go about things like normal, but things have obviously changed. Order 66, the Jedi are suddenly, wiped out. There was this order to wipe out the Jedi, and the clones are suddenly just, against the Jedi, and I guess they're just kind of confused by it a little bit. And while they're at Kamino, because they went back to Kamino to get orders and do whatever, they run into I'm gonna spoiler again, they run into another enhanced clone who is a child, and it is a female clone. We don't know much about her at all, but we got it revealed later in the episode that Omega, that is her name. We've seen this character in the trailer, and she is a female clone. So that's actually pretty cool. It's actually a pretty cool storyline to go into the whole cloning thing and how she is an enhanced clone and what exactly happened that made, essentially, I would assume, the first female clone, considering it was all based off Jango Fett. So it's very interesting. It's actually an interesting storyline. The character itself, I don't know if I like all too much so far. I mean, she's just there, and she hasn't done a whole lot yet, but I'm sure we'll learn more about Omega as the series goes on. I don't mind her. What her story is and what they set up does sound really interesting. So I'm very interested in Omega. But on Kamino, Grand Moff Tarkin is there, and he is now, of course, with the Empire. I don't know if he's Grand Moff yet, but he is now working with the Empire immediately, and he is essentially cutting off production of clones. He doesn't want clones anymore. This is essentially what we already knew. They're going to start getting recruitments for stormtroopers and stuff, but the clones are going to be decommissioned, so they're not going to be making any more clones for the army, because I guess it's cheaper to get recruitments rather than produce clones. So that's the whole storyline there. Tarkin just wants numbers. The Empire just wanted numbers. They don't want to spend the money or the resources or whatever on making clones. So that's why he's there. And he's also there to test out the clones to make sure they're in tip-top shape to actually serve in the Empire. So he is analyzing the Bad Batch in particular, because they are the set of clones that are different from the rest of the normal clones. And he's, testing them, showing off, giving them different tests, and ultimately, they're disobedient, so they're not following orders. So he gives them a special mission to go and wipe out some separatist forces that are still remaining on Onderon. And the Bad Batch makes their way there, but once they're there, they run into Saw Gerrera. We did see Saw Gerrera earlier on in the Clone Wars. Ahsoka, Rex, and Anakin, they helped them, liberate their planet, and that was a really cool arc. And we see Saw Gerrera later in different movies like Rogue One and Rebels. But Saw Gerrera, this is his voice actor. Yeah, I actually got his voice actor from the Clone Wars, and it's kind of more his design from the Clone Wars. But essentially, the Bad Batch runs into them, and they realize that there is already like this rebellion force with Saw Gerrera against the Empire, because this is not separatists that Tarkin sent them out to supposedly go after. It's instead, Saw Gerrera and his force of rebels already, and he's protecting villagers and different people, innocent people on this planet. So the Bad Batch is already getting a wake-up call to the Empire and the Emperor's true power and his, reign. And again, once they get back, they're captured because they didn't wipe out Saw Gerrera and his forces. So the Empire has taken the Bad Batch as prisoners, and Omega was also off on her little side mission, investigating around Kamino, and got herself thrown in a little cell as well. But essentially, Crosshair is conflicted because he has his chip that's like half working, half not. So he's kind of questioning Hunter's orders and stuff, because they're usually disobedient, but Crosshair with his chip, he's wanting to follow orders more and more. And in the end, they do take Crosshair, and they find out that his chip again is working like halfway, and they go ahead and set his chip up, and they turn his chip on all the way. So now he is fully Order 66 compliant, and he is set to go after his former team, which is pretty interesting. It's a really cool storyline, and I learned about this spoiler like a week ahead, so it was like spoiled in toy and action figure boxes with the description of Crosshair. But it is a really cool storyline, and I'm very excited to see what they do with Crosshair, because I honestly think Crosshair was one of the standout characters in this episode. He was really cool. Crosshair is really, really cool. But in the end, Omega is with the Bad Batch now. She goes off. They're trying to escape Kamino because Crosshair is now after them. He is now in his Imperial outfit. And yes, they're still using clones, so these are stormtroopers, but they're clones still. And Crosshair is now against them. He has joined the Empire. They activated his chip all the way, and now he will be fully compliant with Order 66 for the Empire. And the end of the episode just ended with Omega and the crew that escaped, and they're off to go and start their next adventure. So that was a really quick rundown. I just really wanted to make it real quick there, but my thoughts on this episode, it was really well done. The whole beginning part with Order 66 and Kanan Jarrus, or Caleb Dume, was amazing. I mean, when you bring in all that type of stuff, it's obviously going to be just amazing to watch. It really, really is. But the later half of the episode, I guess you could call slower, but it really built up the entire crew and the characters and the whole storyline going forward, and I thought it was amazing. The Crosshair stuff was really, really good, and Crosshair is honestly, I'm really looking forward to see more of Crosshair. I know I like the whole crew, but Crosshair is a very fascinating character, and I think, we could see a lot of cool things from him going forward, especially now that he's a very rough character, and him in the Empire makes a lot of sense. It looks really cool, and I think seeing him going forward is going to be really, really cool. But The Bad Batch, it is now out. The first episode's out. It's 75 minutes long. It's more like 70 minutes long in total, so it's like an hour and 10-15 minutes long, and it's a really long episode, but it's kind of like the Clone Wars. It started in a nice long premiere of a movie. So the Bad Batch is out, guys. Go check it out. Dave Filoni is doing some great work. I don't have any doubts in Dave Filoni. I mean, Dave Filoni is just a genius in Star Wars, and he continues to prove himself with this series. I hope it continues to be great going forward. That's my quick review and rundown of the Bad Batch Episode 1 Aftermath, and see you guys in my next video.